Ready to go!
Alrighty guys, hope you are doing well. Sorry, I just wiped the McDonald's from my face. I know a few of you guys saying that I don't eat a good diet, but that's another topic. We're not here to talk about that today. I wanted to talk about today the concept of it's hard to teach a strong guy to move well. Just like it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, I feel it is honestly a disadvantage to start in this sport strong. Now hear me out. Clearly strength is an incredibly vital part to being an arm wrestler. I define arm wrestling as 50% a combat sport, 50% a strength sport. There is the old debate, which matters more, strength or execution. And you can always make arguments for both. You can always say two guys with the same ability, the stronger one wins. And you can also say two guys with the same strength, the one who executes better will win. So there is no definitive answer. They are both independent variables that can determine a winner. But when I think about the concept of being strong versus being weak at the beginning of your arm wrestling journey, I've always believed it was a disadvantage to turn up strong because you are so inclined to use your strengths, and you are blind because of your strengths. You are blind to the finer movements. You are blind to the opportunities. You are blind to the methods needed to create traps and dead spaces for your opponent. And I had a really interesting development in my own head at the moment because of my injury. As you guys know, I have a shoulder injury. Saturday this week, I will have my MRI done. So I will find out exactly what is going on with my shoulder very soon. But having this shoulder injury has made me realize that I'm a strong guy and that I'm struggling to learn the finer arts. It's made me realize that I'm that old dog who won't learn the new tricks. And now, I know I'm a pretty complete arm wrestler in terms of technical awareness. I think I'm at the upper echelons of ability to move on the table. But even still, with that, my shoulder injury has highlighted something to me. It's highlighted that I've always tried to use a solid combination of side pressure with my hand and with my down pressure and with my cup and all those different things. And it's meant that I've tried to use that. Now, at the end of the day, the reason we want to refine our technique is because we ultimately have more potential in our abilities if we get technique correct. Now, John Brzenk is the best example of what I'm talking about here, because John, in his early 20s, tore his labrum throwing a baseball. And John's side pressure is less than mine. I'm not saying that to be derogatory in any way or disrespectful towards John. It's just the truth. If John and I, okay, this is prior to my shoulder injury. If John and I just grip up and he doesn't take my hand and we just go sideways, I can drive sideways hard enough that his shoulder gives way and he concedes. And yet, clearly, I'm not the greatest arm wrestler of all time, and John is. And so you say, well, okay, why? And we all know, of course, the answer is John's hand. John's hand, his cup, pronation, and how he uses it is what has made him the true GOAT of the sport. Now, as I was saying, it is hard to teach an old dog new tricks. It is hard to convince a strong guy not to use his strengths. And for me, this injury has made me realize, as I was saying, that when I had side pressure available to me, I think I was using it too much. Now, Todd Hutchins is probably going to die if he hears this, but I think I was using it too much. I think I was cornering myself into being that old dog and refusing to learn the new tricks that ultimately have more potential. Now, the injury has forced me to become the young dog once again. It's forced me to arm wrestle differently. It's forced me to arm wrestle like John. And I'm enjoying it. Oh my goodness, am I enjoying it. I am discovering so much about cupping and pronation. Such simple concepts, yet usually I would cup and pronate, and once I'd get to a certain point, I would drive sideways. Now, when I cup and pronate, where I would usually drive sideways, I know I can't because I will hurt my shoulder if I do. And so instead of doing that, I am searching more. I am searching for better control. I'm searching for continued denial of my opponent's access to their own strengths and subsequent side pressures. And I'm discovering ways to force my opponents to do things that they just don't want to do. And at the end of the day, I do believe firmly that arm wrestling, now to quote Devin Larratt, arm wrestling is about taking your opponent where they are weakest, as opposed to taking you where you are strongest. So, arm wrestling, there is no end to the enlightenment process of refinement of technique. The combat side of arm wrestling is what I love most about it. The strength, I see the strength as inevitable. Love the sport, don't get injured, and just keep on arm wrestling, you will become exceptionally strong. But where you become strong depends on how deep you dive into the combat side. If you just stay in the old dog routine and never become that young dog, then you're limiting your potential within your own genetics. But if you can decide not to use the obvious version of your strengths, but use the subtle versions of your strength, I think you start to unlock a new level of potential. Anyway, deep stuff here this afternoon. I am feeling like this chapter with my right shoulder being injured is going to lead to the final evolution of my game. It's going to lead me to a place where I'm better than I would have been had I have not injured this shoulder. And that for me is one of the most exciting things. I think injuries actually help. Injuries actually force you to learn things you've never thought you even needed to consider. And when you do consider those things, you discover things you didn't know were there. And the value of those things you discover are actually more than you could have imagined possible. All right, guys. I'm going to end with that ultra spiritual stuff and get back to the last couple of bites of my double quarter pounder. See ya.
Yes, that's a man!